Ultimately, I'm going to have to explain to you in a way that could be perceived as racist by idiots as to why you're an idiot if you don't acknowledge that I'm the top martial artist, because of them slowing my videos down and the abhorrent and unforgivable lack of conceding publicly, the lack of concession that we see from the martial arts world and America in general, because of their propaganda campaign that predates the war on terror, that has everything to do with the white power structure and her allies. So this video is called Group Denial of Conspiracy as the Root Cause. There's a group denial of conspiracy being the root cause of societal ills, of social rejection, of crime, financial problems, economic disparity, etc. Well, first of all, let's consider the sexual behavior in society, the trade root bitches, the corporations, the image of different groups are all connected. Business, presentation, company, right? The company you keep, women, right? Your ability to win women over, to be financially stable, sustainable relationships, sustainable business practices, etc. Corporate partnerships, the partner that you have with your wife, these things are connected. These things are also hopelessly controlled. If you don't understand that, you should stay out of politics. You shouldn't speak at all. These things are hopelessly controlled. Okay, I've seen it from every angle you could imagine. The martial arts world, the business world, as my parents are trying to start a business. I've seen the troubles they've come across having a product that cures various forms of cancer and malaria. I've seen it from the criminal perspective. As I used to hang out with gang members, I've thoroughly studied politics, psychology, mental health, human behavior, sociology. Okay, I have a degree in software engineering. It could be seen as a form of computer science, information technology. I've seen it from the various angles as the top martial artist who at one point had a $100,000 challenge in a 4-year, $4,000 challenge. Okay, and then I had another challenge before that in 2012. I've been challenging them, from 2012 up until the end of last year. Okay, that's a long fucking time. Okay. And certainly the more ambitious and the more skilled martial artists who look for competition and to prove their point and to prove their racial and martial arts supremacy are thoroughly aware of who I am, and if they play stupid about it, shame on them. And certainly in martial arts societies, the people who hold down other martial artists, make sure they're not as good as they are thoroughly aware of what I've accomplished as well. Okay, so this brings me to the second point. The individual has some form of self-induced cognitive dissonance. Okay, some form of self-induced denial. They refuse to accept these things are true. It's kind of like somebody says, hey, my dick is bigger than yours, and they're talking to some huge guy with a huge horse. He's hung like a horse, okay? And women are like, his dick is bigger. He's like, no, it's not, right? It's very similar to the cognitive and mental processes that person in denial has, okay? Of course, we see this with the sexual energy, and which race is perceived to have the biggest penis, even if it, on average, even if it wasn't true. We see the sexual energy being compared to being a part of the occult practices all throughout history. Is thoroughly documented in books and articles, periodicals, all over. Okay, we know that sexual energy is part of the New Age. We know the sexual cult, the Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, Crowley. We know this. We know there's sex cults in Hollywood. We know that people get busted for coercing people into sex and having sex cults. The Smallville actress. It's mainstream history. It's thoroughly documented. No one in their right mind denies it. Okay. So, of course, there's a degree of group acceptance, right? They want to get theirs before they pass. And obviously, when we look at the police on record have a problem with the FBI, generally speaking, when it comes to them being perceived as a bunch of fraternity boys. And Trump and his administration exposed that there's a secret society in the FBI as they started to expose their text messages and other forms of communication. Okay, mainstream history, well documented, no one can deny. Okay. Secret societies control the institutions that control people. This is not up for debate. You're insane if you don't see it that way. You're insane if you think Skull and Bones doesn't exist. You're insane if you think Wolf's Head and Scroll and Key don't exist. You're insane. There's no question about that. It's thoroughly documented. You can go to those places. You can visit. In most towns, there's a Masonic lodge. You can see. You're insane if you think these things have no connection to social control, the order, and etc., etc. You're insane. Just fucking batshit crazy. All right. So fraternal organizations, co-masonry, Masonic movements, from colleges especially, they consider psychological, social, economic, political, and religious or spiritual effects on their groups, partners, and allies, and certainly on themselves, influence society, and certainly this is an organized, concerted effort to control sexual behavior and trade. You're insane using psychology, economic techniques, social control, political techniques, and campaigns, and so on. You're insane if you don't see it that way. Just fucking nuts. I didn't want to consider the dumbass who doesn't see it that way. All right. So, there's also a concern about the admiration of desired mates and lovers. You're insane if you don't think that's part of an image. You're insane if you don't think that women don't think about that. Men don't think about that when they get ready in the morning. I mean, it's just crazy. I didn't want to consider the idiot who doesn't see it that way. All right. There's a concern about mostly the immediate effects of admitting these things on their offspring. So we see people covering up what you'd have to be insane not to understand. They're thoroughly discrediting themselves, dishonoring themselves. You shouldn't listen to that kind of nonsense, right? If they say, "Oh, you sound like a conspiracy theorist," when you talk about the effect that most of a lot of the presidents were Freemasons, right? George Washington. Okay, for them to say you sound like a conspiracy theorist and not to consider that secret societies affect our social, political, and economic lives is nuts. To think that they talk about religion, science, and philosophy and that they don't affect and control religious movements is nuts. Okay? To think that psychological warfare doesn't exist when the Freedom of Information Act has exposed documents and handbooks of that include psychological and unconventional warfare, you're nuts. Okay? You're out of your fucking mind. Just shut up. The headache I've had dealing with these immature political bitches, these racial supremacists, these feminists, the LGBT movement, all these immature scoundrels, ruffians, just uncivilized trash. There's just no word for it. I'm sick of them. I'd rather not talk to them at all. But when you factor that everybody in society is in one of these groups or another, I'm forced to have to deal with these inferior forms of life. It's just a waste of time. No top martial arts have to deal with this dishonorable trash that's forced on us in Western society and pretty much reaches around the globe. All right. In conclusion, life has become empty and not worth participating in. This is not some kind of depressed, kind of nonsensical statement. This is common sense. When everybody is in a batshit crazy state of cognitive dissonance and denial, and they don't even know that martial arts come from Africa, it's time to say, maybe life isn't worth participating in the first place. That's like saying that we don't know black people are good at boxing. They're good fighters. It's stupid. And not to make the connection that, hey, East Africans are mixed with Arab and so on and so forth. With all due respect, they don't tend to be as athletic as West Africans. They don't tend to be as tough and resilient and as coordinated, okay? They're kind of like these Bob Marley type of guys compared to compared to Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali in terms of brute force. And in terms of coordination, they're kind of like this kind of geeky kind of nerd compared to, me, the top martial artist with surgical strikes at Brain Surgeon's son. It's stupid. If you don't know that West Africans dramatically outperform other groups of people, and especially when you consider obstacles, you're crazy, just shut up. Just shut the fuck up. If you think that they're not going to try to sabotage them more in the future to cover that up if people start making this argument commonly, you're an idiot. If you think that validates white supremacy or there are arguments that reflect a desire to make white people seem superior, you're an idiot. Okay, I have no time for that type of stupidity. I'm the son of 2 doctors, the top martial artist with a $4,000 slap across every martial artist's face who thinks otherwise 4-year fucking challenge. I have no time for people who aren't as intelligent as a chimpanzee. I could probably teach a chimpanzee why that is true faster than some of you stupid motherfuckers. You cowardly, sniveling pussies. And it's not because he isn't more courageous than you are, it's because that chimp is. And that's disgraceful. All right. So, people need to accept that the world can reach a point of no return. We can hopelessly contaminate the world. We can hopelessly control sex to where only scum, the DNA and genes of scum are in society. You need to accept that can be the case. The bad guys can team up with feminist, Satanist, occultist whores in co-Masonic movements and fuck up the world. If you don't see it that way, you're insane. Go back to high school biology, look up Mendel and Darwin, do your research, see where they're right, where they're wrong, figure it out. It can occur. You can wipe out a group of people. You can wipe out their DNA and it's gone. And resort to unnatural garbage from then on in, ill-gotten gains. It's useless, no honorable martial arts, no man of high moral worth would take anyone seriously who is part of that. And no man of high moral worth would follow any religious, spiritual, social, scientific, or any other movement that has wiped out the righteous. No man of honor would do that. That's stupid. It's delusional to think that that's not the case. So then when you concede, you can seed a child with superior mind, body, and soul. And that goes back to the wordplay, right? You concede the points of the con man, then you can concede some inferior form of fucking demonic trash. The fuck do you call that? Stupid. It goes back to the difference between fighting and killing, right? A concussion. The con artist, the con man, cusses the eye of On or Heliopolis, where martial arts as an organized system spread around the world and impressed upon the world as superior really comes from and really can never be overcome or outdone. And of course, the Ebos eventually rise as the highest form of the martial arts mind, body, soul structure, with all due respect. So we do the root cause analysis, right? It's not enough to say white supremacy. What causes white supremacy? A desire to control trade and pussy. Teammate, shipmate, sponsor, ship, okay? And so on, okay? Shipping and receiving. I mean, it doesn't take a fucking genius to see that I'm correct. So we look at the structures that were built in Egypt, the medicine, the military, the astrology. These things are connected, right? Martial arts systems were partially based on nature, which includes the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, etc. The structures are part of warfare. Fortifications, fortify, okay? Medicine is part of warfare. The military, martial arts, medicine, structures, science, astrology, these things are all connected. It was a martial arts order. It is insane not to see it that way. You know them by their works. Ebo is the bell that rings the loudest. Obelisk, Obi all ass. Ebo, Man Obi, Kuro Obi, Black Belt, sign of rank. I've thoroughly proven my point. It is insane not to see it that way. So, and of course, there were other races of people in Egypt who had lesser contributions than the martial arts order that was governing over them. Safe to say, certainly when the Greeks later on didn't even know their way around, and they were the first Europeans to really set up shop there. Okay, so democratize the pharaoh's power. How did he get them, right? He got them from an understanding science and medicine and martial arts. To do that, they have to suppress a people. The most stigmatized people is also the most logical pharaonic people, because they have to be suppressed in order for Osiris, which gave us Serapis, which is the image of Christ, and Hades and so on, right? Hades injected into Osiris and Apis, giving us Serapis, which then gave us the image of Christ, okay? And certainly that goes back to the rich, mining, right? And so on. So, democratize the pharaoh. Okay, so how do they do it? They have to suppress the superior cultivation and the resulting superior brain structure of these people. That gives us the Flint water drugging, the crack being dropped into the black communities. They suppress the natural talents of the black man, especially the pharaonic bloodline that expresses itself in one person, not a group. So you suppress that group, and you put a special emphasis on suppressing that one person. You're an idiot. You're batshit delusional and crazy if you don't see it that way. If you don't think the anthropologist and the Egyptologist didn't consider that perhaps these are martial arts structures, you're a fucking dumbass. If you don't think that their narratives thoroughly testify against them as thoroughly discredited pussies that give you tidbits of truth at best, you're an idiot. Notice my articulation in this video, the video I will present after this video, versus the video with the blue and gray hoodie on, collared shirt, where I'm stumbling over my words, where I'm fumed more then than I am now. Notice the absence of fuming means the more accurate and effective articulation, a more coherent, cogent presentation. You're an idiot if you don't see it my way. for these reasons. And you're an oversimplifying, sarcastic, sniveling, mainstream puppet bitch that I couldn't possibly respect if you don't concede my point.